Welcome to the Inside Silverstone podcast, a business-focused podcast covering all things tech, engineering and innovation. Hosted by me, Chris Broome, a huge tech, motorsport and gaming fan, and also the owner of Longhurst, a firm of lifestyle financial planners and independent financial advisors located in Silverstone, Northamptonshire. This is a series of unscripted and unpolished conversations with leading business owners, thought leaders and high-tech talent where we discuss their experiences within the Silverstone business and motorsport region. We will also be asking them to share their knowledge, insight and their thoughts on the future just for you. If you're looking to learn more about the Silverstone high growth region and commercially connect with like-minded peers, you've definitely come to the right place. Welcome to Inside Silverstone. Welcome to the next edition of Inside Silverstone. My name is Chris Broome and I am your host. Today I'm delighted to welcome to the show not just one, but two guests from the University of Northampton. May I welcome to the show Dilshad Sarwar and Patrice Seuwou. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And we're obviously recording this during COVID, which is why we're sort of doing it through Zoom and got you at different screens on the computer. So first of all, thank you for obviously giving up some time whilst we're down in sort of COVID lockdown. How's it all going? Actually, I didn't say I was going to ask you this question. So how's it all going? How are you guys finding it individually and families at the moment?
It's going well. Yes. The odd hiccup with the internet access, but yeah, it's going well.
Yeah, I mean, we are delivering many of our sessions online now, so we haven't got that much change except these sort of face-to-face, meeting with the students that we do miss at the moment. Yeah.
Well, we'll come on to the student bits in a bit. So good. So yeah, we've been introduced through our friends at Digital Northampton. So big shout out to the guys there for connecting us. The reason they asked me to make sure you came on and were interviewed and spoke was because you're launching or have launched a new technology or digital based business course, which we're going to come on to. But before we do that, it's customary for us, as I always explain, just to get a very quick sort of education and career snapshot, if we can, just so that our fantastic dear listeners can understand the sort of path that you've been on to where you are today, and why, frankly, if they're going to consider attending a business and technology based course, why your course and why you as individuals are the right people to be leading it. So if we start ladies first, let's be a gentleman.
Sure.
So
yeah.
just a very quick sort of PhD, masters, gold medal at the Olympics through to career. What's been your background?
So my background, I'm originally from Leeds. So I did my degree at the University of Leeds in information systems for business. And then I progressed on to do two masters, one a master's in education management, and then a master's in information systems. And I then decided to take the leap into higher education and begin teaching. From there, I decided to work on a PhD, and my PhD is in BAME issues, Black, Asian, minority, ethnic students in higher education. So I did critical race theory, taking a phenomenological approach to higher education from BAME students. So I've been in Northampton now nearly 3 years. Yeah, just about, roughly. And so that's where I'm at with education and work. I did work at Leeds Beckett University and taught modules in information systems, business related modules, digital business type modules. Similarly here, I'm now subject group lead for business systems and operations. And in the department, we're actively promoting digitized modules, business related, and across the Faculty of Business and Law, we're kind of dipping in lots of different programs. So that's my background.
Okay, cool. Patrice?
Oh, thank you very much for having me here. Again, at the moment, my background is computer science. My undergrad program was computer science and informatics. I did my master's in innovative technology, where I specialize into forensic science, computer forensics, digital forensics, things like that. It was very exciting. I still remember when I finished my master's, I wanted to work for MI5. Unfortunately, I couldn't apply twice to join the British Army and the Royal Air Force, but couldn't get in for some reason. But and then I decided to carry on with my studies. I went for my first PhD in computer science. But while doing my PhD in computer science and informatics, I was also doing another master's in education. Finishing my teaching qualification, everything else, and I finished my PhD in computer science and informatics, where I was specializing into self-driving cars. So looking at the factors that somehow influence people behavior intention to adopt the technology. I created a sort of theoretical model that can somehow be used by car manufacturers, organizations, or the government to somehow introduce the actual technology to the world. Basically, we believe in the next few years, self-driving car will somehow be introduced. It's going to be something that's going to change the way society works as a whole. In terms of when I finished, as part of my before actually moving into the education sector, I was in the industry. So I worked initially as an IT support technician. I qualified as a Microsoft certified professional. I then moved into networking, doing things like Cisco certifications, Microsoft engineering, and a few things like that. And then became a programmer, where I studied about 14 programming languages, and then project manager. I work in a very specific Microsoft project back in London in Canary Wharf. And my actual moving into the education sector, I started initially as an NVQ assessor. I was assessing candidates in business administration, because I did also an NVQ in business administration in my training, during my training. And and then I moved into lecturer position, senior lecturer, program leader, course leader, head of department at some point, and then quality manager and academic registrar, before finally moving into Northampton, just last year, about eight months ago, as a senior lecturer in digital business and program leader. So that's a bit about my history. But before we carry on, I just want to mention, you mentioned about the sport aspect of it. I was professional athlete many years ago. I traveled.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
As what? What were you doing?
I was a triple jumper. I was specialized in triple jumping, long jump, and high jump.
Really?
Yeah. So I did a lot of competition, but what didn't happen is my dad asked me the question, Patrice, do you want to stay as a sport person, or do you want to carry on with education? And I thought, sport wasn't. I mean, at that time, it wasn't bringing that much money. I was training quite a lot, back in those days, and it wasn't bringing that much income. So I thought education actually liked to help people, to support people, and to learn as well, and share that knowledge for other people. And that's the reason why I moved into the education sector. And I've been teaching the past 10 years, I deliver over 41 different modules in mixing computer science, project management, information systems, information management, and a few things like that. So yeah, that's a bit about me. Yeah.
What was your record for triple jump?
I was around 14 meters 50. I was a junior back in those days. It was pretty good.
Yeah. How tall are you, can I ask?
5'11".
Yeah, fine.
Yeah.
Triple jump, you've got to be quite a decent height for that. So
absolutely, yes.
Wow, what a great story. I was only joking about Olympic medals, but that's really good. And just coming back to the MI5 point, I mean, look, it's their loss, right? So it's Digital Northampton, University of Northampton, and now Inside Silverstone podcast benefit that never happened. And being very complimentary, anybody listening to this that's thinking about career path, look at the stepping stone process you've both done, but definitely on the example Patrice has provided on literally every step of the ladder, working your way up. It's commendable. So
thank you.
And to not have let that the desire from teenage or young adult to get into the government or MI5 and the military, respectfully, to deter you from actually still having a phenomenal career. So I think
Absolutely.
That's, for both of you, fantastic explanation of careers. In fact, the best one we've had in 60 plus episodes, the most fun we've had.
Wow.
So thank you very much. That was really good. Right, so the reason you're on and we want to talk is because you're running, for me anyway, I think a really cool course, which is focusing on digital business. So talk to me both about what the course is, some of the different modules, but actually, first of all, the genesis behind why it was launched and what drove it to be launched.
Okay, so shall I start off, Patrice, and then
yes, absolutely, yeah.
You weren't with us at that point, Patrice, when we started the development of the programme, and the programme started purely because our dean at the time, Dr. Mary Watson, wanted to do something a little bit different. So she came to me with an idea. She said, well, Dilshad, this is what I'd like as a flagship programme for the Faculty of Business and Law, something to do with business, but having the IT aspect associated with it. So in terms of that, I put my ideas forward working with a couple of the other subject groups, and they were the accounting and finance subject group and also the marketing subject group. Because I thought the most impact the digitized environments have are in those areas: digital marketing and accounting and information systems. So the idea came about from that. So we went through a number of different modules, and we had to look there. There are 2 other institutions that are running digital business. One's Salford and one's Kingston, and we had a look at what they were offering, and we wanted to do something slightly different from both of those institutions. So we had these three pathways put into place. So we've got the finance pathway, we've got the marketing pathway, and the business systems and operations pathway. So that was a whole kind of idea. The seed kind of grew from that. And working with colleagues in the Faculty of Business and Law, we looked at what's really current. So for accounting and finance, fintech, that was something that was really quite current at the time. And then digital marketing, there's a whole host of different software environments that we can use for digital marketing. So they were the key kind of areas we were developing, and that was the kind of underpinning of bringing the program together. If I pass over to you, Patrice.
All right. I mean, thank you very much. Did I cover some of the background of the actual program? I mean, going back to what Dilshad just mentioned. So the program is an undergraduate program. It's got 3 main streams. The first stream is digital marketing. I mean, it's a very, very important aspect of the program. We also have, accounting and finance. And then the final stream is literally digital business systems and operation. And when we look at the business system and operation, all these streams are delivered by the specialists in those specific area. We guess our subject group is business system operations, so we guess cover modules such as digital organization, for example. I mean, we're living in this world today, and every single organization actually moving digital. So we have e-commerce, for example. Most people are buying the stuff online these days with new digital business model. Today, if you do not change your business model, reinvent yourself, you might actually disappear altogether. This is actually the life that you're living into. We have information systems, for example, designing website, data analytics. I mean, when you talk about data analytics, I mean, it's not just a cool career path anymore. It is more or less a skill set for the 21st century, literally. So how can we analyze that massive amount of data that we have online about us? At the same time, we cover things like project management, for example, how to manage project, because today it doesn't matter the field you work in. At some point in your career, you're going to be involved in working some form of project. So we give you the skill set to somehow work in build projects in general. We'll link that back to professional certifications such as the Prince2, the Scrum Agile project management. We also cover things like emerging technology at the same time, the new, interesting technology coming up in the world, 3D printing, the augmented reality, the virtual reality, some of the technology that we call RFID technology, self-driving cars, nanotechnology, artificial intelligence moving in every single field these days, deep learning, and a few things like that. And something quite important as well, we also cover elements linked to cybersecurity and risk management. So we have all these businesses moving online. How can you actually protect your organizations from cyber attacks, from hackings, from malwares, Trojan horses, ransomware, and few things like that. And finally, we also cover things like digital entrepreneurship. How can you actually be an entrepreneur in this world? So have these financial independence. We cover many other things, but these are the main key concepts that we're actually covering at the moment. Yeah.
And also to add to that as well, Chris, if I may, we also wanted to focus on students who actually completed the degree but actually stayed in Northampton to work with companies, and that was one of the fundamental drivers behind this particular program. We want to have students with the skills and the knowledge and the experience and expertise and go into industry, but stay in Northampton. So we keep the students in Northampton because it's a fantastic place to work, and there's some amazing businesses that are overlooked because they're in Northampton, and they shouldn't be, because there's that skill base that we've got in Northampton which we can then kind of put back in to companies and so on. So that's the whole kind of fundamental aspect of the whole program.
Well, there's some I can vouch for that. There's phenomenal businesses in Northamptonshire and South Northamptonshire. So, just part of the Digital Northampton cohort, you've got Rebecca Gill from VR Therapies, for example, who's a now award winner, plus many other businesses, including those who are part of Silverstone Technology Cluster and Silverstone Park, which is where my business is. There's some awesome companies here, and some big enough hooks to get people to not only move and stay here, but to also improve from an educational perspective and undergraduate course, as you've said. So I think it's fantastic. Just picking up on some of the bits you said, Patrice, about some of the course elements. So there's obviously a lot. You've just literally gone through a broad range of things there, which is awesome. Yeah. Things like digital marketing. So I love marketing personally, and if I wasn't running a financial planning business, I would be probably running a marketing or digital marketing business. So let's talk about, this podcast is a form of marketing, right? So what elements, just broadly, do you cover in digital marketing?
At the beginning of the course, we cover things like, first of all, traditional marketing and how marketing actually changing massively in nature. If you want just to focus on newspapers and TV, which can actually be very expensive, it might take you a lot of money, and you might not actually assess the whole population you really want. So most organizations today, they're actually moving into online platforms, social media. You're looking at YouTube, for example, Facebook. You're looking at Twitter, so LinkedIn, to actually market the product. And you tend to actually have a massive audience, because most people today, particularly young ones, they're actually accessing the information, using, online these days. So it is a very, very powerful area. I've got some of my colleagues actually specialize into marketing, and then they cover very, very specific key things, how to analyze the data, the statistics how your actual marketing product is actually doing online. So we cover many detailed elements in that study program. Absolutely.
Okay, cool. And another one being cybersecurity. So you're right, in an age where all of our data is online and accessible, presumably in the cloud or otherwise, what's covered off in that element of the course?
Absolutely. In cybersecurity, just like we mentioned earlier, today, we have digital businesses, so they have a online presence, and many of these businesses, they have data. Today, our data is the new gold, is the new oil. It is a new currency. So our data is so important for us. So we have to find a way to somehow protect that data, so to avoid anybody from having access to that data. So we're going to be discussing the different type of attackers, malicious attackers. We have in cybersecurity, we talk about the black attacker, the white attacker, the gray attacker. People study about hacking. So how can you actually protect your organization against hacking? What type of malwares, what type of malicious software can actually be designed? Things like phishing, for example, viruses, ransomware, which is a big thing these days. So antiviruses. So how can you actually protect your organizations against all these specific issues? That's really something that we cover. It's very, very detailed as well. So that's what I covered as well. Yeah.
Thank you. And I love the term digital entrepreneur.
Yeah.
No, I don't know why I've not heard of that, but I love that term. And so, in a nutshell, how would you encapsulate what that means? If you were to Wikipedia it, what would it say?
Yeah.
What's a digital entrepreneur?
I think it's about being an entrepreneur. How can you create your own business and a digital business and be an entrepreneur, able to have these financial independence? So that's basically the main concept. Yeah.
Cool. And the course lasts for how long?
It's a 3 years course. The first year we have 6 modules that we cover. Second year, 6 modules. And then when you finish, you get to the final year. We also have the opportunity of a gap year as well. So you're able to work for about a year in the industry, and then you come back for your final year where you have a final year project, research methods and project and something that you specialize. You can decide to specialize into digital marketing, into the second stream, accounting and finance, or business system of operation. We also have elements of human resources as well that we have covered. So you can actually be, you have, it's just a many, you have skills on many different sectors, so you can work literally in many different parts of the business as you go along. Yeah.
Okay, and presumably it's based on campus as opposed to, sorry, I interrupted you there, Dilshad. What was you going to say?
I was just going to add to that. One of the points that I want to really highlight is that this program has been designed with the input from employers. So what I'd like to just emphasize here, because we've got that gap year as well, students going out to industry, working with companies within Northampton and bringing those skills back is fantastic. And we also have in line, hopefully, when we're delivering the programs, particular modules where we've brought in people from industry, employers to come and do guest lectures, master classes for students as well. So that really, really promotes the program, and the skills base for students as well.
Well, I've gone into the local, few schools here talking about what we do here and how we use technology to promote, a financial services business, which is, not a traditional tech business. I'd be delighted to come in if there's ever an opportunity to talk about how we use things like podcasts and social media and other online forums to basically build our brand. So yeah, I'm just throwing that in there.
Absolutely. Welcome, absolutely. And just to add something very quickly, just this year we organized, I think last year as well, we organized a digital business challenge. So we are actually going to schools around Northamptonshire, basically to introduce the concept to the young, to young student pupils there, grade year 9 pupils, and we're actually helping them, supporting them to build their own digital business, and then coming to the university to present there, to pitch their ideas in front of academic and non-academic audience. Yeah. Good,
really, really good. And presumably the course is based at campus, yeah? So as a student, they're coming in daily, every other day, whatever it is, for lectures and what have you?
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. Okay, versus obviously remote learning from home and open university.
Actually, at Northampton, we use something we call active blended learning, which is quite a powerful way of delivering sessions. We have the face-to-face teaching, online videos, flipped classrooms. So that means we give them work to do before they come to university, self-study techniques, virtual classrooms, a blog, wiki, discussion, project, and many other online quizzes. So we actually have that mix of all these key techniques to somehow enhance learning and understanding. Yeah.
Good. And do you have a rough average age of a student who would be attending this type of course?
I think universities for all ages, to be honest. So we're sort of preparing anybody without prior technical skills to actually join in a course and then build up his or her knowledge and understanding in many different areas, and then be able to actually work in industry very quickly. So that's basically, this type of courses is to prepare students for work directly. So we'll be learning a lot of things about professional certifications and few other courses, elements to somehow support them to be ready for the job market. Yeah.
Well, I've literally just written and highlighted in pink the title of what this podcast will be called, which is Becoming a Digital Entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
So that's what we're going to call it. So I absolutely love it. I think it's a great phrase. Right, I've got some other questions on my pad here.
Okay.
So, right, COVID. So how are your current students surviving? So how presumably it's remote learning, video conferencing. How are you doing it, and how are they finding it?
From the students' perspective, I think they're quite versatile, and the methods we've used are collaborative software. We've used that, and we used that prior to COVID-19 as well, where discussions were held, where meetings were held, and so on. So students were familiar with that, and we've also used a lot of WebEx for meetings, particularly for dissertation final year student meetings. We've not really gone into using Zoom as yet, but that's a possibility. But what we have done, and we've feedback from students, they are very engaging because they're joining collab sessions, they're bouncing off ideas. There's technically about 60 students within one session, and it's very good. And where there are issues in terms of students not being able to use the technology for whatever reason, we're compensating for that in recording the live session so they can play it back and so on. So it's going really well. We haven't had many negative, well, very few negative feedback on this, and the ones feedback that has been a little bit negative has been purely because students were their own, like I had this morning, internet issues.
Yeah.
So it's not anything to do with what we're doing as a university, so that's been really positive.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
And in terms of, we've changed some of the assessment forms, so initially some of the modules where a student was supposed to actually sit down in the sort of, classroom to take the exams, we had to somehow make some changes to the assessment, possibly convert these assessment into the coursework, but at the same time, we're still meeting the learning outcomes of the module. So we went through the whole normal process to actually make sure that the form of assessment is valid and reliable for the students.
Yeah, good. You both moved to Northamptonshire from different areas, so Leeds and London, down to South Northamptonshire or Northamptonshire. So for those that aren't from here, what's Northamptonshire like, and what do you enjoy about it the most?
Do you want to go first, Patrice?
I moved just last year. It's been a very interesting experience, so it was challenging for me because coming from London, we have 24 hours transport, buses, almost every 10 minutes or so. Something I really love about Northampton, we have I don't live that far from the Northampton Park, so I have a huge park, absolutely wonderful, and also there's a lot of restaurants as well, so which is pretty good as well, so yeah, and I think it's a very quiet city, so good for for family if you want to be quiet here, focus on your education, your studies or your work, so it's pretty good city, absolutely.
Good.
And I coming from Leeds, obviously a very big city as well. It is quieter, but it has a really good balance because you can, if you want to, be in the heart of everything, go into the city centre. That's fine. But also it's got the restaurants, it's got the rural aspects, long walks and so on. So it's been really, really nice to move to Northampton. People are very, very friendly, I found. Very friendly compared to Leeds.
Absolutely. And the good thing with Northampton is that, as you said, you are literally a few minutes drive from countryside.
Absolutely.
So Northamptonshire is literally covered in fields and woodlands and forests. I'm South Northamptonshire in Toaster, or near Toaster, and literally just outside our office. Well, first of all, we've got Silverstone race circuit, which is clearly cool, but it's just fields and fields and fields. And so, for those that like it a bit quieter and fresh air and greenery, definitely a great place to live, but also to come and study. Clearly,
absolutely.
Guys, we're 30 minutes into this podcast already. Hasn't that gone quickly? So I'm going to do some quick fire questions, and then we can close this off, and I can let you get them back to educating the next generation. So this is obviously a conversation about digital businesses and technology. So what's your favourite bit of technology at the moment? Patrice, we'll start with you.
But mine is the self-driving cars. I believe it's going to change the whole way society works. So that's basically something I'm quite passionate about. Yeah.
Great. Okay, Dilshad.
Well, mine, I guess, is using the podcast and using blogs and so on. So, yeah.
Okay, fine. Bit of technology that you'd like to see invented.
What would you like to see invented?
I don't know. What do we think that there's a need for? I don't know. I'm making this up.
Oh, I'm just thinking.
Patrice, anything?
I don't know. Transport. Using her. Just like helicopter, but a lot quicker.
Something like that with the futuristic films.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah. God, yeah. I think we're probably quite a way off that, but imagine when that does happen. It'll become like Minority Report or one of those films.
Absolutely, yeah.
Anyway, right. Okay. Next question. We always ask this about embarrassing stories. So, we've had many guests on the show, and all of them have been good sports and shared a funny story or an anecdote of some kind. So is there anything in either or both of your lockers that you'd be prepared to share with us, something that's funny?
I'm thinking.
Anything at all, Patrice?
It was the stories. It was me about 10 years ago. I was a program leader working for an institution back in London, and we originally validated a couple of modules, and some of the credit systems on those modules changed. But somehow, when the students took the exams and everything else, and somehow we're supposed to update the system and the formula we're using to calculate all the marks. So what did happen is we always have something that we call pre-exam board to identify all the issues. So we went to the exam board. I was the one somehow providing the formula to actually calculate all these things. So we went to the exam board and the pre-exam board. So all the students were failing. We didn't know what was happening. It was terrible. Everybody was looking at the professor. We're looking at each other. What's wrong? All students are failing here. And so very quickly we actually figure out possibly it might have been a problem in the formula that was actually given, to the administrator to somehow make the calculation. And then that's actually how we figured out the problem. And that was actually me, the person in charge of creating this formula. So I didn't take into account some of the changes linked to the credit system that were changed just the previous year. We managed to fix that very quickly before the actual exam boards. And, but at that time, we had all the administrators were all looking at me. It was a horrible situation because they all knew I was the one actually who came up with all the formula. And so they knew they had to work, 2 or 3 times harder in order to meet the deadline on Friday. So it was a challenge, but it was one of the most horrible experiences I ever had, in education. Absolutely, it was all fixed. It was all fixed at the time. I mean, based on that experience, I learned it's very important to really be thorough. So double check things 2 or 3 times. Possibly, Sharma mentioned, I do check things 2 or 3 times just to make sure there's no problems. So that's how I learned more from my mistakes. Absolutely.
That's a great story. And look, that's a massive life lesson in that, right? Unless you make these types of mistakes, how do you learn? So at least you can laugh about it now. And at least the students and their parents and everybody weren't freaking out because everyone had failed. I mean,
we fixed that up, and it went very well at the end. So
Great. Well, great story. Right. Last question. So you are clearly educating students. We have students listening to the podcast as well. We like to try and pass on wisdom and life lessons. You've just provided a great example there, Patrice, of a great life lesson. But if we took yourselves back to an 18-year-old version, so literally just as you finished your A-levels, you're about to go off to university and eventually onto your PhD and masters and potential, MI5 journey, what one bit of advice would you have given yourselves? If I start, do ladies first again.
Sure, of course, yeah.
Thank you. I think I would say that don't underestimate your own capabilities and what you can achieve. As an 18-year-old, I always self-doubted. I won't be able to do this. I can't do this. I'm not able to do this. But I think you shouldn't underestimate what you can achieve if you put your mind to it. Despite any hurdles that you might have, they can be you can overcome them. But my real advice is work hard. Don't let anyone else tell you can't do something. It's only you yourself who tells you can't do something. So if you have that positive attitude and approach to say, I can do anything I want to do, but I need to follow X, Y, and Z steps to get there, then you're on your way. So that's my advice.
Great bit of advice. Patrice?
Yeah, I think initially I had something similar, so never give up. It took me almost 10 years to finish my PhD. It was a long journey. It was a stretch, so but something I kept going. I could see that the end of the tunnel, at the end of the tunnel, the light at the end of the tunnel. I just kept going until I finished it. And something else I just want to mention very quickly. It doesn't matter basically how clever you might be. So we're always going to face some serious challenges at some point in our life. And I mean, we have a speaker. He's a quite well-known speaker in the world. He's called Les Brown. He actually mentioned in life, we're always going to be faced with some sort of God-ordained opportunities, really in disguise, has problems and challenges. So never give up. So carry on, work hard, and you're going to get there. Absolutely, yeah.
Two very sage bits of advice. So, Dilshad and Patrice, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast, promoting the University of Northampton and the digital business course that's obviously going live or gone live. We will have links in our show notes, which you'll both provide me, please, which will direct people to, obviously, the course, the website, and literally anything else that you think will be relevant for them, so that anybody listening to this, if they're thinking, do you know what, I'd love to learn how to become a digital entrepreneur, and this is the university to do it, then we'll make sure that you can find them and that you can register. And understand that in the future, once you've got the qualifications, if you ever want any work experience or potential job opportunities, then Longhurst, my business, based at Silverstone, will potentially be open for you to come and work at. So, Patrice, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. As we say to everybody, obviously keep safe, keep sane, and take care.
Thank you so much for having us here. Thank you.
The Inside Silverstone podcast is produced by the team at Longhurst for the benefit of those with a passion for all things tech, engineering and innovation. For more information, please visit longhurst.co.uk/Inside Silverstone, whilst also remembering to give us a 5 out of 5 star rating on iTunes. Please note that neither Chris Broome or Longhurst work for Silverstone Park, Silverstone Circuit or Silverstone Technology Cluster.